Hey everybody, welcome to another weekly wellness update. And it seems like I have gotten into the pattern of doing an every other week wellness update. I don't intend to do that. Just life has been so busy recently. Everybody experiences it. But for whatever reason, every other week seems to be where it's at right now. But I'll try to get back on the weekly wellness update. Anyways, on the video today, what I wanted to chat about is something that I talked a lot about over the summer. I did a whole bunch of experiments over the summer, for all different reasons. A lot of it was just, purely scientific, or at least, scientific experimenting on myself. I had the opportunity to use a continuous ketone monitor, which is something that I had never been able to use or experience before. So I wanted to really make the most of it. So it threw me into all of these experiments about ketosis. And if you want to go through the journey of that whole experience, I have it all documented. So you can go back and watch all of the different challenges I did. The first one was the Sardine challenge, which that was an experience. I'm glad I did it. I probably won't do it again. But I did several different ones, and I was wanting to see what I could do with my diet to get my ketones higher. And there is a huge variation in ideas around ketones and ketosis, and like what's the optimal level of ketones in your bloodstream. And, all the way from it doesn't really matter what the ketone meter says. If you're eating a ketogenic diet, your body is utilizing ketones. So like the number on the meter does not even apply, all the way to if you don't have this level of ketones in your blood, basically you have to prove that you're in ketosis by the number on the meter. Like it's super, super important. And you can be doing something that looks very ketogenic as far as your diet, but if you're not getting the numbers on the ketone meter, then you can't say you're on a ketogenic diet. So there's this whole spectrum of ideas around ketosis, and I've kind of, for a long time, fallen into the camp of it doesn't really matter what the ketone meter says, because as you get more fat adapted, your body just gets used to burning the ketones, so they're not just floating around in your blood all the time, so you're not going to see as high of levels. And kind of intellectually, that's where I landed with the ketosis, so I stopped testing my blood ketones. I really didn't worry about it. But then I had this opportunity to use this continuous ketone monitor, which kind of changed the whole game for me. So I just wanted to see what I could do to get these higher ketone numbers. And then once I did achieve those higher ketone numbers, what did that mean for me? Like, how did it make me feel? Is it something that I would be willing to do, long term, or, more often, I guess. And so what I found in doing all of these experiments was that there were ways that I could get my ketones up. And I found that when I was eating just like my regular diet, that I do consider to be a ketogenic diet, that the numbers on the meter, they were not registering, above 0.4 or 0.5 most of the time. And so for some people, they would say that's not even in nutritional ketosis. But I found that when I implemented certain diet strategies, I could get my ketones up. I never was able to get them up, more than 1.7, I think, was the highest I ever saw. I was never able to get like 2.0 millimolar and beyond. Some people can, but I definitely saw an increase from my own baseline. So I was able to compare how I felt on my baseline, and then how I felt when I was able to get it a little bit higher, like 1 to 1.7. So the basic things that I found that I needed to do in order to get my ketones to go higher is, and you guys probably know this already, lower my protein and lower my calories. I did find that the amount of fat I ate did not seem to have as much effect on the ketone number in my bloodstream as I expected it to. Because a lot of people say you need to eat lots of fat, that turns to ketones, and it like primes your body to make more ketones. I did not find that to be the case for my body. I found that I would get a certain level of ketosis based on the amount of protein and carbs that I ate, and the amount of fat I ate, whether it be really low or really high, didn't equal more ketones in my bloodstream. So if for me, and it can be different for different people for sure, but I found for myself that just adding a bunch of fat did not give me higher ketones. And actually I saw the highest ketones when I was eating the lowest calorie, and that includes lower fat. And the protein and the carb number seem to be the main drivers for me to get to that higher level of ketosis that I was able to achieve. So that brings me to protein. And if you guys have watched me for a while, you know that I absolutely love protein. I was on a ketogenic diet years and years and years ago, and I swore it didn't work for me. I was like, keto doesn't work. Keto is not for me. Keto will not be for me. I need to have carbs. Turned out that it wasn't that I needed to have carbs. It was that I was severely under eating protein for my body. And I found that I could very, very happily eat a low and very low carb diet as long as I had enough protein. So in these ketosis experiments, I did find that if I wanted to have that higher number of ketones in my blood, I did have to reduce my protein down to somewhere around 80 grams. And I found that if I was exercising fairly heavily, I could get it up to 100 grams, which is not terrible. Like, that's a pretty good amount of protein that I'm pretty happy with, like comfortable with, maintaining muscle and things like that. Although I do feel better when I have more protein than that. I feel more satisfied. If I'm just eating to hunger, I tend to eat a lot more protein than that, somewhere around the 150 gram mark of protein. And so it was difficult for me to keep my protein as low as 80 to 100 grams. And I also kind of like to err on the side of more protein is better, especially as we age. Muscle is just so important for our youthfulness and for our health as we get older. And so even though 80 to 100 grams of protein is a good amount, since I feel like my body tells me to eat more than that, I feel a little bit safer in those areas, going a little bit higher on the protein. So I kind of got to this place where I needed to decide what was more important. The cognitive benefits that I felt with getting those ketones a little bit higher, because I did feel some brain benefits. Those were the main things that I noticed, was that my mental clarity was a little bit better. And so I was like, is it worth going a little bit lower on the protein to get these numbers for these brain benefits? Or are the benefits of the higher protein, like being more satisfied, being, feeling a little bit more comfortable with, higher amount of protein as I age, like which one of those is more important to me? And so that's kind of where I left that whole conversation back towards the end of the summer. Just, thinking, well, maybe I can incorporate some like ketogenic days, like 3 or 4 days of eating more ketogenic, lowering the protein, lowering the calories a little bit, and getting into ketosis, and then kind of moving to a higher protein. And I kind of was toying with a lot of those kinds of things. And then also it did end up losing a fair amount of weight doing these experiments with the more ketogenic macros. And a lot of that could be just because I was eating a lot less calories when I was doing that, especially on things like the sardine fast and even the egg fast. I don't think I got more than like 1,600 calories per day. So it was a reduction in calories as well. So, as the time has gone on, it's been a few months now since I did those experiments. One thing that I have found is that the weight I lost came back really fast. And it was kind of discouraging, of course, when you work hard and you lose some weight, to have it just come right back on is discouraging. And I had to contrast that in my mind with when I lost weight doing lean days, where I was alternating regular eating days, like full macros, plenty of fat, and then the next day I would do a lean day where I brought my fat down and, kept my protein up pretty high. And I would alternate that. I lost a lot of weight and it stayed off like effortlessly. Like it felt like my body was happy with the weight being off. Whereas when I lost weight doing the higher fat, more ketogenic, it was like I realized that if I want to lose weight that way, I have to just commit to eat that way forever. It seems like that's what it seems like in my mind. So that has kind of steered me away from wanting to do that kind of an approach again. Because I don't want to eat that way forever. I really don't feel satisfied eating that way. I've always been one where I can eat lots and lots of fat and it really doesn't satiate me. Eating more protein and even eating a little bit of carbs seems to be a lot more satiating to me than just bumping up the fat. It's like I can just eat fat all day long and, feel like I didn't really eat anything. So I really have moved away from that kind of an approach. I'm super glad that I did the experiment and that I was able to see the data in real time because, just to know for sure that I did achieve deeper states of ketosis, for my own body, and then to see how I felt on it, and then to kind of see how my body responded after. It was enough to say, okay, I'm glad that I experimented with that. I'm glad that I did it, but I don't think that that is going to be an approach for me moving forward, especially not for a sustainable weight loss. Now, if I were all of a sudden diagnosed with cancer or some other, terminal illness or something like that, I would absolutely delve into all of the info about deep ketosis and the healing benefits and all of that. But for me, just as a lifestyle, I decided it's just not for me. So coming back to protein, it just keeps being confirmed to me that making protein the centerpiece of my diet and the priority in my diet is really what's going to be working for me long term. And I kind of knew this. I've kind of known this for years and I've been talking about it. And it was just a little bit of a detour to kind of experiment with the deeper ketosis and see how that went. And now that I'm kind of through that, it's just another confirmation that protein is going to be the priority for me long term. And then, macros around protein, how much fat, how much carbs, I feel like there's some wiggle room there and I can kind of play with that, but the protein is going to be my central focus. And as far as working towards weight loss, like I said, I did gain back the weight that I lost over the summer, and I'm sitting at a place where I'm not happy. I have definitely been a lot smaller. And honestly, the leanest I've been, I don't want to just talk about being small, but talking about being lean, the leanest I've been is when I was doing the every other day lean days. And if you guys weren't here for the whole lean day thing that I did, I don't go as extreme as protein sparing modified fast. I never was able to sustain that at all. Trying to eat 800 calories a day just never worked for me. So what I do for a lean day is anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400, and it really can vary because I do eat to hunger. I don't starve myself, and so if I'm extra hungry on a lean day, I will eat a little more, but sometimes I'm just not hungry, and so it tends to be a little less, so it really does vary, but it usually falls somewhere in that 1,200 to 1,400 calories for the day, and then I always follow it up with a regular eating day, and usually my regular eating days are anywhere from 2,000, well, I'd say anywhere from 1,800 to 2,200 or so. So if you average it out, it's really not that extreme of a calorie deficit if you're looking at the average of what I'm eating every day. But it tends to be enough that my body responds well and is able to lose weight. and it's able to lose weight, I think, a little bit better than if I were just to take that average number and eat that same average number every single day. Like doing the up and down seems to have a stimulating effect on my metabolism or something. Anyways, all that to say, if I do go into another weight loss phase, which I'm just thinking about, and nothing is decided at this point, but if I do, because of all the things that I have experienced and learned over this past summer and before that as well, I would definitely lean towards the lean days as a tool for losing weight. So after all the experimenting, fat, ketosis, brain benefits versus protein, satiety, muscle benefits, the protein has won out for me at this point in my life. And so I just kind of wanted to share all of that and kind of wrap that up, because I kind of left it open-ended at the end of my experiments. Like I might, use some of this stuff in my everyday life. And because of the way that the weight came back on and all of that, I was just like, you know what? It was fun. It was good to try it out, but that's not going to be my long-term diet. So anyways, you will probably be seeing more protein in my what I eat in a day videos, maybe some recipes that have a little bit lower fat, because for me, if I want to lose weight, I can't do it if I'm just eating as much fat as I want. It's just, I wish it was different. But if I'm eating the level of protein that I'm comfortable with, I have to reduce the fat if I want to be in a weight loss period. I could maintain my weight pretty well eating as much fat as I want, within reason. But if I want to lose weight, I've got to cut down the fat a little bit. And actually, if you guys are interested in more info about like what I'm talking about and other people's experience, there was an excellent podcast on the Optimal Protein podcast with Vanessa Spina. She interviewed Linda, the Carnitarian, over on Instagram, and she kind of had a really similar experience to me, because she went a lot higher protein and lowered her fat and had some great results. And then she kind of got, she heard everything in the community about this high fat, and she started experimenting and trying to get the higher ketones. And, she ended up in the end coming back to the higher protein as being the best choice for her. And of course, it always is an individual choice. But if you want to hear some more stories about that, I will link that podcast down in the description. Vanessa, kind of a similar experience as well. I really have enjoyed listening to her over the years, because I feel like I've been kind of on a similar path with, discovering the amazingness of protein, and then like, oh, but ketones, and then, kind of finding my way back to what I think is ultimately going to be what's going to keep me moving forward. Anyways, that is it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down below where you're at. If you're doing like the 80-20, high fat, lower moderate protein, if that's working great for you, I'd love to hear that. If you've, been on a journey of figuring out what works for you, just let me know down below. I would love to hear it. And I will just see you again in the next video.